My ex-wife left me for the I can't believe it's not butter guy. Hey, true story. First off, I want to say I've been a fan of your channel for a while now. I stumbled onto it after my divorce during those lonely nights when I was trying to figure out where life went wrong and why my love life had more plot twists than a daytime soap opera. Your videos made me laugh, shake my head, and most importantly, realize I wasn't the only guy out there who got played. Well, I guess it's my turn to share my own little romantic tragedy. Although now I can laugh about it. Back then, not so much. Back then, it felt like I'd been hit by a bus driven by betrayal itself. But now, with some time, distance, and a whole lot of gym sessions, I can tell it with a little humor. This is the story of how my marriage ended thanks to my ex-wife and a long-haired IT guy who looked like the discount version of Fabio from those old I can't believe it's not butter commercials. How we met. I met my ex-wife Laura back in 2011. We were both in our mid-20s, figuring life out, and she was the type of woman who could light up a room. She had a contagious laugh, she was down to earth, and she could eat a whole pizza in one sitting without caring who judged her. I liked that about her. We met through mutual friends at a cookout. I was standing by the grill, trying to look like I knew what I was doing, and she walked up with a plate of potato salad and said, "You're burning those burgers." That was the start of our first conversation. We talked for hours that day about music, traveling, family, and before I knew it, we were dating. We moved in together about a year later, and by 2014, I put a ring on her finger. Our wedding was small, but perfect. She looked like a queen walking down that aisle, and I honestly thought we were going to be one of those couples that made it to 50 years. Married life, at first. Those first few years of marriage were great. We had our little traditions: Friday pizza nights, Saturday morning coffee runs, and Sunday binge watching our favorite shows. We took road trips, we went to baseball games, and we supported each other's careers. She worked in an office doing admin work, and I was climbing the ladder in my field. We didn't have kids yet, but we talked about it. We were building towards something. I thought we had trust, respect, and love. Then came Fabio. Enter the IT guy. One day, Laura came home from work and started talking about how their office hired a new IT guy. Now, most of the time, when your wife talks about a new coworker, you don't think much of it. But this guy? She described him in a way that made me raise an eyebrow. She said, "He's tall, has this long flowing blonde hair, like that I can't believe it's not butter guy from the commercials. You know, Fabio." Now, I hadn't heard the name Fabio in years. I mean, the last time I thought about him was probably in the 90s when he was on romance novel covers and doing margarine ads. I laughed and said, "So you've got a Fabio at work? Does he also ride a white horse to fix your printer?" She laughed, but then kept bringing him up. The innocent lunch invite. A couple of weeks later, she came home and said, "Me, Jenny, and Michelle are going to lunch with Fabio tomorrow. He's new and doesn't know a lot of people, so we thought we'd be friendly." Now, here's the thing. I'm not the jealous type by default. But when your wife suddenly talks about a guy every day and then wants to go to lunch with him, yeah, the little spidey sense in my head starts buzzing. I played it cool, though. I said, "Sure, have fun. Maybe he'll tell you the secret to keeping hair that shiny." She rolled her eyes, gave me a kiss, and that was that. Or so I thought. Suspicion creeps in. After that lunch, something changed. She started texting more, not just the occasional scroll, but full-on phone glued to hand texting. She was also a lot more protective of her phone. Before, if her phone buzzed while it was sitting on the counter, she didn't care if I glanced at it. Now, she'd snatch it up like it was the nuclear launch codes. I'd ask, "Who's that?" And she'd casually say, "Oh, just Jenny." But here's the thing. Jenny doesn't make you smile at your phone like you just won the lottery. I noticed she started working late more often too. Some nights she'd come home and say, "The system crashed and Fabio had to stay to fix it, so I stayed to help." Uh-huh, sure. Because nothing says admin assistant like helping the IT guy fix the system. The breaking point. One night she was in the shower and her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Normally I wouldn't care, but something in my gut said, "Look," and I did. What I found made my stomach drop. The texts weren't friendly little work updates. They were flirty, suggestive, and downright inappropriate for a married woman. Stuff like, "Can't stop thinking about last night." "You smell so good I couldn't focus at work today." "Next time we should skip lunch and go straight to dessert." There were pictures too. I won't get graphic, but let's just say they weren't exactly office appropriate selfies. It was like reading a bad romance novel, starring my wife and the IT version of Fabio. Confrontation. When she came out of the shower, I was sitting on the bed holding her phone. She froze. I said, "So, dessert, huh?" She tried to play dumb at first. "What are you talking about?" I read the messages out loud. Her face went pale. Then came the excuses. "It's not what it looks like. We're just friends who got carried away. It was only flirting, nothing happened." Right. Because people send that kind of flirting to their just friends. I told her I was done. I wasn't going to be the guy who stayed with a woman who clearly had one foot out the door and the other in Fabio's cubicle. Filing for divorce. I filed for divorce the next week. She begged, cried, and tried to guilt me into staying. "We can work through this. Please, it was a mistake." But I had the evidence. And honestly, once trust is gone, it's gone. I told her, "You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." The divorce wasn't messy in terms of assets, but emotionally, it was draining. Every time I saw her, I was reminded of those texts, of the guy she swore was just a coworker. Life after Fabio. After the divorce, I decided I wasn't going to sit around moping. I got into new hobbies, started hitting the gym, picked up baseball again, something I loved as a kid, and focused on myself. At first, it was just a distraction, but then I started to see real changes. I was stronger, healthier, and more confident. My friends even joked, "Dude, you're the new Fabio now," minus the long hair and butter commercials. I also realized something important. Losing her wasn't the end of my life. It was the start of a better one. I have my peace, my health, and my self-respect, and those things, they're priceless. I've decided that if marriage were an amusement park ride, I've ridden it once. The thing broke down halfway through. I got thrown off, and now I'm standing at the gate telling people, "Trust me, kid, save your ticket for something else." Life post-divorce, the unexpected peace. When I first got divorced, everyone gave me the same pep talk. "You'll find someone new. Don't close yourself off to love. You just haven't met the right person yet." Here's the thing. I'm not against love. I'm against contractual love with legal penalties for leaving. That's what marriage feels like to me now. Since my divorce, my life has been ridiculously peaceful. No one is asking me why I didn't text them back while I was at the gym. No one is just checking my location on a random Tuesday night. No one is pouting because I didn't watch a certain Netflix show with them the moment it dropped. It's like I finally remembered what it feels like to breathe. Why I'm off the marriage market. Marriage, at least in modern times, feels like a business partnership with way too much fine print. People say it's about love, commitment, and building a life together. But if you look closely, it's also about legally binding yourself to another person's decisions, debts, and habits. Potentially losing half your assets if things go south. Spending thousands of dollars on a ceremony you barely remember because you're too busy smiling for pictures. And here's the kicker. The success rate for marriage is about as solid as the success rate for keeping your New Year's resolutions past February. Half of them fail, and in my case, the cause of failure was a Fabio wannabe with a company email address. The till death do us part myth. When you're young, you believe the fairy tale. You think you're signing up for 50 years of love, respect, and companionship. But what a lot of people don't tell you is that life changes people. Stress, boredom, unmet expectations. They can turn the love of your life into the stranger on the other side of the bed real quick. In my case, it wasn't just change, it was betrayal. And betrayal hits different when it's the person who stood in front of your friends and family swearing to never do you wrong. Once I saw how quickly those vows can be tossed aside, I started to question why I'd ever sign up for that kind of gamble again. The Fabio factor. I joke about Fabio now, but he's really just a symbol in my mind. A symbol that in every marriage, there's always the possibility that one day your spouse meets someone who flips a switch in their brain. It could be a coworker, a gym buddy, or even an old high school flame who slides into their DMs. And here's the brutal truth. If they decide to go down that road, your marriage certificate won't stop them. Your shared history won't stop them. Your joint bank account won't stop them. The only thing that'll happen is you'll get the privilege of paying a lawyer to make it official. Dating without the contract. I still date. I'm not living in a cave somewhere knitting sweaters out of bitterness. I enjoy companionship, I enjoy affection, and I enjoy having someone to go to baseball games with. But here's the difference. When I date now, it's clear there's no legal merger happening. I don't need the state involved in my love life. I don't need a court deciding who gets what if things don't work out. When the relationship is purely personal and not legal, the exit door is a lot less expensive. My advice to younger listeners: I know a lot of young people listen to your channel, and I'm not here to tell you never to fall in love. Love is great. It's exciting. It's meaningful. It's one of the best parts of life. But marriage, that's where you need to slow down and think. Here's my advice from someone who's been through the ringer. Wait until you're older. Getting married in your early 20s is like buying a house before you've even decided what city you want to live in. You don't even know yourself yet, let alone the kind of partner you'll want for the rest of your life. Live together first. Some people still think it's bad to live together before marriage. Personally, I think it's essential. You need to see how someone acts when the honeymoon phase ends and real life kicks in. Protect yourself financially. If you're dead set on getting married, get a prenup. I don't care if it kills the romance. What really kills romance is a bitter, expensive divorce that drains your bank account. Don't ignore red flags. If your partner is constantly talking about another person at work, if they guard their phone like it's the crown jewels, or if their work late nights start stacking up, pay attention. It's better to confront issues early than to let them rot your relationship from the inside out. Understand that people change. You're not just marrying the person standing in front of you now. You're marrying every future version of them, some of which you might not like. Why I'm happier now. People think staying single long term means you're lonely. Honestly, I've been more fulfilled in these last few years than I was during the last half of my marriage. I spend my time how I want. I've gotten serious about working out, and I play baseball in a local league. I've reconnected with friends I barely saw when I was married. And here's the big one. I'm not living with a constant knot in my stomach wondering what my partner is doing when she's working late. There's a freedom in knowing the only person who can really mess up your life right now is you. Closing thoughts. If you're young and still think marriage is some kind of guarantee, I hate to burst your bubble, but the guarantee expired a long time ago. The only thing marriage guarantees these days is that if things go wrong, it'll cost you more to leave. I've chosen peace, freedom, and control over my own life. And if I could give just one piece of advice to someone standing where I was 15 years ago, it's this. Don't be in a rush to give those things away. Thanks for letting me share True Story. And if you ever hear from another guy whose wife left him for someone who looked like a commercial from the 90s, tell him Ben says, "Welcome to the club." Hey, I'm back. Consider this the extended cut, the director's commentary nobody asked for, but I feel compelled to share. 1. The Fabio shampoo situation. When I told you my ex kept bringing up the IT guy's hair, I didn't tell you about the shampoo incident. One day, about a month after he started working there, she came home with this new, ridiculously expensive bottle of shampoo. We're talking $30 for 8 ounces. I looked at the price tag and said, "What is this? Liquid gold?" She goes, "Oh, Fabio uses this brand. He said it's amazing for keeping hair healthy." Pause. So now my wife was taking hair care advice from her work buddy. That was my first real moment. I even joked, "Next thing you know, you'll be bringing home his conditioner too." She laughed, but it was the kind of laugh people give when you've hit uncomfortably close to the truth. 2. The lunch that wasn't just lunch. I also realized I skipped over how sketchy that first lunch was. She told me it was her, 2 female coworkers, and Fabio. Here's the part I left out. When I asked what they ate, she said, "Oh, just some Italian place." That wouldn't have been weird, except later I found a receipt in her purse from a different restaurant, a place that didn't even serve Italian food. Now you might think I'm being paranoid over a restaurant mix-up, but here's the thing. When you lie about the little details, it's usually because you're hiding a bigger one. 3. The text that gave it away. I told you in the first email that I found flirty messages, but I left out the one that officially sealed the deal for me. It was from him, and it said, "I can still smell your perfume on my shirt." There is no universe where that's an okay text for your married coworker to send you, unless she spilled a bottle of perfume on him in the office, which, last I checked, isn't part of IT troubleshooting. 4. Her sudden interest in staying late. I kind of glossed over how often she was working late once he showed up. It wasn't just once or twice, it was 3 to 4 nights a week. And these weren't like, "I'm staying an extra 30 minutes late nights." We're talking 2 or 3 extra hours. Sometimes she'd even come home after me, and I was working out at the gym until 8. I remember asking her, "What's so broken in the office that you need to stay until 9 p.m.?" And she'd say stuff like, "Well, Fabio needed help reorganizing some files." I'll bet he did. 5. The office party disaster. Another thing I forgot to mention. The office holiday party. I went with her that year, and surprise, surprise, Fabio was there. I'll be honest, the man's hair was impressive. Like, the kind of hair that looks like it should be blowing in slow motion with a soundtrack. But what really got me was the way they interacted. I could see that extra sparkle in her eyes, the kind people get when they're talking to someone they're really into. They laughed at inside jokes, and I noticed she kept touching her hair every time he talked to her. At one point, I walked up while they were mid-conversation, and he barely acknowledged me, just gave me one of those sup nods, and went right back to looking at her. If there's one thing I can't stand, it's another man acting like I'm invisible in front of my wife. 6. The gaslighting Olympics. When I confronted her about anything, her phone, her late nights, the hair product, the party, she had an answer for everything, and every answer made me feel like I was crazy. You're overthinking it. You're jealous for no reason. Why would you think I'd cheat on you? The thing is, gaslighting works for a while until the evidence starts piling up. Then it's like trying to convince someone it's raining when they're standing in the desert. 7. The big phone search. The night I finally went through her phone, I didn't just find texts. I found call logs. Dozens of calls, sometimes for over an hour, and many of them late at night after I'd gone to bed. And these weren't work calls. Unless the IT department suddenly started operating like a late-night talk show. 8. The aftermath drama. After I filed for divorce, she tried everything to get me to stay. She sent me long messages about how she made a mistake, how nothing physical happened, still not buying that one, and how we could get back to the way things were. She even tried the old let's go to counseling trick, but by then, I wasn't interested in fixing something that had been smashed to pieces with a sledgehammer. 9. What I learned the hard way. Looking back, the biggest thing I left out is how much I learned from the whole mess. Small changes matter. When someone's behavior shifts, new habits, new friends, new interests, don't ignore it. Defensiveness is a red flag. If asking simple questions turns into a fight, there's usually a reason. Trust your gut. Your instincts are rarely wrong, even if you can't prove it right away. 10. Why I'm glad it happened. Yeah, I said it. As crazy as it sounds, I'm actually glad this all happened. Don't get me wrong, it was painful at the time, but it forced me to grow, to get healthier, to focus on myself. And now I can look back and laugh at the fact that my marriage ended because of a man who looked like a margarine spokesperson from the 90s. So, yeah, true story. I figured these details were too good to leave out. Sometimes it's the little moments, the side stories, and the awkward encounters that really show just how far gone a situation was before you even realized it. And if anyone listening to this thinks I'm being petty, maybe I am. But I'm also a guy who learned the hard way that ignoring the small stuff can lead to a giant mess later. If nothing else, I hope someone hears this and thinks twice before dismissing their own gut feelings. Thanks again for reading my stories. Who knows? Maybe the next time I write, it'll be about how I dodged a bullet in the dating world, but without a Fabio involved. Ben.